Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners, to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius, the official energy drink of pewterreport.com. It is a Monday edition of the show. Unfortunately, not a victory Monday, as we all saw the Bucs get embarrassed on Sunday to the tune of 26-7 to the Denver Broncos. So instead, we're going to spend today's show talking about how do the Bucs fix their offense. It was tough sledding for them yesterday. It wasn't ideal, even though it was a win against Detroit in week 2. So there are plenty of things to fix before the Bucs have a crucial game coming up against the Philadelphia Eagles this Sunday, which is another home game for the Bucs. So we're going to break it all down today. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me, my fellow co-host, and the face that runs the place at pewterreport.com, SR, Scott Reynolds. Scott, 24-hour rule is in effect for everybody as we try to navigate through the murky waters that is the Buccaneers offense.
Yeah, that was not fun yesterday. No. It was not fun watching that at all. I mean, it was depressing. And I'm not a fan of this team. I mean, obviously we know where Pewter people are, and we want the team to win for their sake. We have relationships with people at One Buccaneer Place. We know this team. We cover them. They're on a daily basis. We see how hard they work, right? And so we would rather the Buccaneers win than lose. But I also like good football, no matter who wins or who loses.
Agreed.
That was not good football yesterday, unless you were a Denver Bronco fan, because there was not much to even glean from that. I tried. I had a mailbag question today. What's the positive takeaway? Is there any bright spots? It's like, well, nobody really got hurt. There wasn't like a significant injury like we saw with Vita Vea last week.
Yes.
Bucky Irving was a huge bright spot. I think we'll spend some of today's time talking about that. And then kind of what we talked about too going into the game. Well, Matt, if they do lose to the Broncos, not that they're going to, but if they do, it's an AFC team, right? It's not going to count towards NFC playoff positioning and all of that, So really unfortunately, that came true. They lost to the Broncos. Nobody really saw that coming. And it was an AFC loss, which is not fatal at all. If you were to sit there and say out of the first 4 games, Washington, Detroit, Eagles, and the Broncos, which team would you rather lose to? I think for just the long-term sake, looking at the postseason, because I think this is a postseason team. I think the Bucs are a playoff team still. Yeah. You would say the Broncos, because that's the least damaging loss when it comes to tiebreakers for getting in the playoffs or perhaps playoff seeding.
Yeah, one other person I would put into the good category, Zion McCollum as well, especially after that first drive. So Zion, I think, is a good sign of things to come too, because obviously he was great against Detroit. So if he can continue to build that, we're talking about a guy that maybe you trust a little bit more against some of the top receivers in the league. The Bucs don't do, cat coverage where a corner follows one receiver throughout the field in the course of the game. But nonetheless, you have your starting corner of the future. I mean, he's the starting corner of the present right now with Zion McCollum, but you have a lot of answers there as well. And I think it's important to note, Todd Bowles said this today. You heard Baker Mayfield say it, that the Bucs took this one on the chin. They're well aware of how bad of a loss that it looks. But I think it's also important to balance everything out. That was a statement win against the Lions a week ago and an embarrassing loss against the Broncos yesterday. So I think it's more important to just make sure you handle business against the better teams, because we see it every season. I mean, look at 2 weeks ago, the Ravens lost to the Raiders. And then the Raiders lost to Andy Dalton and the Panthers this week. So sometimes you just never know what's going to happen in the NFL. And I don't think that's an indictment on saying, wow, the Ravens are a terrible team. Obviously, their game yesterday was crazy. It's just upsets do happen. And I think it's more telling that the Bucs can win important games like they did against the Lions than, they let one slip against the Broncos. And by slip, I mean, they slipped on a banana peel and fell face first and, broke every bone in their orbital. So I think it's important to remember with these big games coming up against the Eagles and the Falcons and the Saints, if the Bucs go on a 3-game winning streak, we'll look back at that game against Denver and kind of laugh at it and say, what the heck happened that week? So it's important to take everything in stride. The wins aren't as amazing as you think it is, and the losses, while this one was very bad,
right,
it's always as terrible as you believe it is as well. So we're going to break it all down. Todd Bowles even said today the tape was just as bad as I thought.
yeah.
It's going to be a learning lesson for several players.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. This is still a long season, and I think what makes it sting for Buccaneer fans, a couple things. Number one, it's a home game, right? You want to defend the Bay. You want to, especially if you, I don't know, if you're members of Bucs UK and you're celebrating your 40th season.
I felt bad for them.
And you fly all the way across the pond, and that happens. That's not good. I had the chance on Friday night to speak to a couple of the Bucs UK members, some of which I remember meeting when myself and Mark Cook were over there in London for that Bucs Panthers game in 2019, and boy, they had over 100 people come out on this trip en masse to visit the team facility and of course to go to the game as well. It was just it stinks for them because they put so much time and energy and money into this trip, and then to have that end result. This is a picture here of myself, the late great Mark Cook, our last really trip that we took together as he passed away in 2020. This was in 2019. To the left, or I should say, to the left of the picture, to the right of me, is Simon Alexander, who I had a chance to meet up with. Callum Shaw's right there wearing the Derek Brooks jersey. He's a regular here in the Pewter Report podcast chat. I think Simon also makes some appearances as well. And this was Simon and I on Friday night at the Raymond James Stadium at the club section. Again, over 100 UK fans there. It was great to see, again, Bucs UK as an outfit supporting 40 years of fandom for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Just great for the team to recognize them and really kind of roll out the red carpet to them. A couple of other Pewter Report TV members and Pewter Report podcast watchers. This is Scott and Neil Clithrow from the UK as well. Had a chance to catch up with them. So ran into a lot of people that do catch the podcast, and some of them catch it live, which if my math is correct, and I'm not very good in math, Matt, but I want to say it's 4:00 here. It's 8-hour difference. So it's midnight there. Wow. That's quite the commitment to watch a podcast, stay up late, and you got work the next day, et cetera, all that stuff. But and then of course we have some international fans in elsewhere that would be up at 2:00 in the morning, 3:00, 4:00 in the morning, watching us live and interacting here. And if you're going to do it, why not do it on a Monday? Sure. The only thing better than a Victory Monday is a Pewter Report podcast on Monday, where we do roll call, and we do roll call every Monday at 4:20. So in about 10 minutes, Matt's going to go on a rant, and I'm going to find out where y'all are listening to the podcast from and watching it from.
Yeah, very cool to see all of the UK fans ascend to Tampa. Sucks that they saw such a terrible game, but it is nice that, we do have awesome fans across the world, internationally and both locally in America. And that's why we love sharing all of that on Mondays during roll call. So
for sure.
We'll get that going in about 9 minutes from now. In the meantime, we do have a couple super chats to get to. We'll get to the super chats throughout the show as well. So thanks to Rev Fish for kicking it off with a $4.99 super chat. Rev Fish is also a Pewter Report YouTube channel member.
Appreciate that.
Says, hey guys. Yeah, thank you. Hey guys, heard y'all call out Cody Mauch and we're missing Gedeke, but is this group possibly not as good as we thought? We beat Philly, people. Relax. 3-1.
Yeah, I will say this, and I've gone through the first half of the game, and I had to break away and do the podcast here. So I'm through the first half of the game. The offensive line, really the main culprit, and it kind of reflected itself in the PFF grades, Ben Bredeson. Ben Bredeson did not have a good game. Tristan Wirfs had like one or two, little gaffes. Justin Schools so far has held up okay. I know he gives up a sack in the second half, et cetera. Cody Mauch, when Cody Mauch loses, it's awful. It looks really bad. Like it looks criminal. But they're kind of getting fewer and far between. It's just when he messes up, it's blatant. But he wasn't the culprit in this game that Ben Bredeson was. And I thought that the Graham Barton actually played pretty well in this game. The problem is when you have 5 offensive linemen, they have to work not as 5 fingers, but as a fist. And you have one guy here that just doesn't do the job, right, and gives up a pressure. Like, for example, we saw Nick Bettino come around the edge on Tristan Wirfs, kind of hit the arm of Baker Mayfield on a throw that resulted in an incompletion. The other 4 guys did the job. That's a clean pocket outside of that pressure that Tristan Wirfs gave up, right? And you don't expect that from Tristan, but that's the thing. It's kind of like whack-a-mole. It's like every single play, it's one guy here or there that's creating a seam or a crease to allow pressure in, and that particular play was Tristan.
Yesterday's game was a good indicator of why it's important to kind of take a look at the game after the fact and obviously slow it down with the all-22, because, we had a lot of heavy reactions yesterday to the offensive line and Cody Mount specifically. But when you go and watch again,
a lot of it's Baker.
You tend to realize, some of it was Baker, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And I think if you guys haven't seen it yet, check out Josh Capo's Twitter at the moment, because it has a lot of breakdowns of Cody Mount getting to the second level and certain blocking packages that really worked well for the Buccaneers. And it's tough with an offensive lineman, right? Because if we don't hear your name, that's a good thing. And you can go up against a top pass rusher, and if there's no sacks, everyone's like, "Oh wow, this is great." But you're not always going like, "Oh my god, this offensive lineman was fantastic." But if one person messes up like Cody Mauch did, and it's egregious, it's like, "Oh my god, Cody Mauch had a terrible game." And he wasn't great by any means, but it wasn't as bad as we all thought. Now, with all that said, 7 sacks is way too many to allow, even in a span of 2 or 3 games, let alone in one game alone. So a lot has to be cleaned up. Thanks to Bucs Basement for this $2 super chat, who says, "Please tell me they're benching School. He's awful." I don't really know what is a better option right now. Robert Hainsey hasn't played tackle since his days at Notre Dame. We're talking about, over 3 seasons ago at this point. And Elijah Klein is a rookie that didn't play tackle until a spot start in a preseason game against, third strings and fourth strings. That's a big time ask of a player that would be making his NFL debut at a position that he's not overly comfortable with. That's right. So I think with Ben Bredesen might be kind of the bigger thing of, if you were going to consider Elijah Klein, it would be at that left guard spot. You also have to remember, left guard has been a revolving door for the Bucs over the last couple of years. They haven't really found a true replacement since Ali Marpet retired. It's, it was a little of Shaq Mason, Sua Opeta, Matt Filer as well, and now this year with Ben Bredesen. So, that's the one missing piece to putting together a puzzle of an offensive line that has great potential and a lot of players under contract, but left guard has kind of been that little glaring spot at the moment. In
my opinion, and I want to see more of Ben Bredesen. Didn't have a good game. I thought he played better in the previous 2. Remember on draft day, when they drafted Graham Barton, the first words out of my mouth were, the Bucs found their left guard, right? And they decided to move him to center. And I get it. They wanted an upgrade over Robert Hainsey. I just have a funny feeling that Robert Hainsey is the 5th best offensive lineman on this team, and maybe Ben Bredesen's number 6. But Hainsey is pretty much a center. He's not really a guard, just the way he's built and constructed and all that. It's too late, and this is just me pontificating, but I just wonder if Graham Barton at left guard this year and Robert Hainsey for one more year at center, if that is not a better lineup. And it's not going to be that way. I'm not going to get my wish, and maybe I'm wrong to begin with. I don't have a crystal ball. But to me, I almost would have rather seen Graham Barton go from left tackle to left guard and learn that position this year. And then they try with Ali Marpet, try him at center once he has a year in the NFL, just being a guard. He's got a lot on his shoulders right now. And some of these twists and stunts that the Bucs are late picking up, it's him. It's him just being a half second slow with his eyes, because he's not used to that. He's used to playing left tackle for 3 years. He was a left tackle. And he's used to basically playing one guy, or maybe you have a defensive tackle loop outside on a stunt, but there's a lot going on in short order when you're playing center. So I don't know. We'll see how the offensive line continues, but my main takeaway from this is a little bit more on Baker Mayfield this game than people realize. And he even owned up to it after the game. He said that he was a little bit of a culprit on some of those sacks.
Well, my question about that with Barton and Hainsey, I understand what you're saying with Barton. Like, it's a lot to ask for a rookie at center, and teams are obviously attacking it as they should, because that's where you're going to find the weak link for the Buccaneers. But, he trained all this training camp in the offseason at center.
Yeah.
Is it something where, I wouldn't say detrimental, that's not the right word, but now if you move him to a new spot, is it like, well, he's got to rewire his brain all over again and think differently and act differently? Like, is that like, would that be an issue? Yeah.
It probably would. And it's too late in my opinion. Like, you've picked the path, you got to continue down it. I'm just saying, on draft day, I would have said Graham Barton is going to be our guard for this year. And we're going to ease him from left tackle to left guard, same side of the field, right? And we're going to stick him at guard. We're going to go one more year with Robert Hainsey, and we'll see how it does. And then if we don't want to re-sign Hainsey, we'll slide Barton over, and then we'll draft a guard, right? Or we'll find a better top-notch guard in free agency. We'll see how it pans out. Maybe Ben Bredeson is an upgrade over Matt Filer. If he is, I don't know how much of an upgrade he is. Maybe it's slight. Maybe it's enough. We'll find out.
Yeah, and that was something that, again, the Bucs don't have the luxury of going into this training camp. It was a competition between Ben Bredeson and Sua Opeta, but then Sua Opeta had that season-ending injury, so not that Ben Bredeson slacked off or anything by any means, but he was kind of handed the job because of it. And Kathy Gillespie with a very nice comment with a $1.99 super chat. Thank you very much, Kathy. Says, Matt's trying to talk us off the ledge, LOL. I'm just trying to be realistic about it because, I think a lot of times, and I get it, I felt this way at times too, one loss and it feels like the sky is falling, and one win and it's like, oh my God, like they're going to go
Super Bowl
undefeated
bound,
the rest of the way, and they're going to the Super Bowl. And that's just not always the case. Because even last year, look how bad it got for the Bucs. There were a lot of people, myself included, being like, Todd Bowles is going to get fired, and they're not going to playoffs.
We did podcasts on that.
Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs?
We did podcasts talking about potential top 10 picks for the Buccaneers. This is in November when stuff was going downhill fast. We were talking about who's going to replace Bowles, all of that. So, yeah.
Hey, it's 4:20, so I think it's right about that time, Scott. It's time for some roll call. We do this every Monday at 4:20. We're actually on time at 4:20, so look at us being efficient in today's episode. If you're new to the Pewter Report podcast and you haven't joined us for a roll call before, first of all, welcome. What we do every Monday or first show of the week is one of us goes on a little rant or a diatribe about a specific topic with the Buccaneers. And while we are going about it, we have so many awesome fans from across the world. We were talking about that earlier in the show today. If you guys want to put on the screen where you're watching the show from, we will we'll put in the chats, and then we will put it up on the screen and give a couple shout outs after. It's cool seeing where everybody is watching from because, like we said, we have fans all across the globe. So I'm going to talk about more of the pass protection issues with the Buccaneers, and specifically with quarterback Baker Mayfield, Scott. So whenever you're ready, feel free to start putting those names up on the board. So the last 2 weeks, it's been really, really difficult for the Bucs in pass protection. We all know what Aiden Hutchinson did against Tampa Bay in that matchup in week 2, 4.5 sacks, completely controlled and dominated the game. And then the Broncos, who they blitz a lot, but weren't getting all the pressure that they necessarily wanted or expected. They burst onto the scene with 7 sacks against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it came throughout the game, too. It wasn't just like, they knew the Bucs had to drop back and pass every single time later in the game as, the lead started getting larger and larger that Tampa Bay was trying to come back from. It killed drives. It killed drives at the beginning of the second half as well. When the Bucs were still in it and trying to make it a one-score game. And I know everybody wants to immediately point the finger at Justin School. I know everybody wants to immediately point the finger at Cody Mauch. And certainly the missed rep by Mauch that led to a sack was a bad one. But also the finger needs to be pointed at Baker Mayfield. And Baker has shouldered a lot of the blame. He's not shying away from his own mistakes in the game. But if you go back and watch the tape and rewatch that abysmal game for the Bucs against the Denver Broncos, there were a lot of situations where, Baker does a good job of keeping his eyes down the field, but there was times he was hesitant. He was tap dancing. The footwork was all over the place. And I'm sure the Bucs were feeling the vibes a little bit based off the scrambling ability from Baker Mayfield over the first 2 weeks. He made some good plays rushing for a first down, avoiding sacks, and then throwing it and finding Chris Godwin. He obviously had the rushing touchdown against the Detroit Lions. And that stuff is great. But let's also remember, Baker Mayfield's not Randall Cunningham or Michael Vick. He's not even, Johnny Manziel, the way Johnny Manziel could scramble at Texas A&M. It's great that he can move and be mobile, but sometimes you just got to understand that you got to eat it and either throw it away or just get the pass off quicker, even if you have to dirt the ball every now and then. There were a couple of sacks where Baker kept trying to extend the play. I don't necessarily want to call it hero ball, but Baker, you got to know when to throw the football away. And there were a couple of sacks that Baker ate where they could have just been incompletions. Also, there were plenty of times where Rachaad White was open in the flat, or Bucky Irving, but more Rachaad White because he had 42 snaps compared to 18. Where Baker, you just got to throw the ball to Rachaad White. I mean,
that's right.
His best skill set is
catching the ball,
having the ball in open space and catching the ball and moving up the field. And Baker was so desperate, I think, to kind of make the big comeback right away. And you can't do that if you're down by 2 scores. The most you can score is 8 on a play with a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. And I think the worst one really was that last sack in the game where Justin School actually did a solid job pass blocking, and he ran right into Justin School. So Baker, I think, has to do a better job of, if you're going to run, tuck it and run immediately. Don't dance at the line of scrimmage and then act like you're going to go forward. And then by the time you start going forward, the linebacker's there, because teams, Broncos specifically, honed in on it a lot more. And that's why, the big 10-yard runs that Baker had 2 weeks ago, he wasn't able to get it on Sunday. And more teams, as they watch that tape, they're going to be aware of it. So Baker's either got to decide to tuck it and run right away, or don't be afraid to throw the ball away or dump it off to the running back, because those sacks that he took ended their drives because they had 2nd and 17s and 3rd and 17s, and it was just impossible from that point.
You're right. Dish out the ball just the way Hezo813 dishes out Pewter Report TV memberships. He's just gifted another one. So this guy, I've lost track of how many memberships he's gifted, but thank you so much, Hezo. It's a great time too for us to thank our members, and I'll do that right now. We've got a couple new members over the weekend, so we want to give a shout out to Ed Gein, Logan Valente, and Carl Gajardo. I think I'm saying that correctly. Please forgive me if that's not the case, but thank you very much to our new Pewter Report TV channel members. Greatly appreciate that. And as always, every show, we always thank our Pewter Platinum channel members, Scott Federico, Guru, Scotty J, Rathel Gordon, and Noah Parr. Thank you very much. And of course, Mondays is Appreciation Monday for you all. We don't just do roll call. We also thank all of our Pewter Premier channel members. And this is a long list, so we're just going to let it roll for a couple minutes here and thank everybody. We greatly appreciate the support. We're inching closer to 100 Pewter Report TV channel members, Matt. That's phenomenal. Just like we are inching closer to 16,000 Pewter Report TV subscribers, which is our YouTube channel. So we greatly appreciate that. We're well on the way to getting the Keenan Isaac number now, which we're excited about. So just want to thank everybody for their support. We had some great numbers again for Pewter Game Day and for Pewter Pregame. Pewter Postgame, not so much. We understand that y'all didn't want to hear about that defeat after watching it, but the pregame show was really cool in terms of the numbers, as well as Pewter Game Day. So once again, y'all just came through like aces. We greatly appreciate all the support. I know Matt and Josh do such a great show. It's a lot of work for 3 hours worth of analysis and all of that. And Matt and I think we bring it at 9 o'clock on Sundays. And we're going to have another one in store for you here. This is Bucs and Eagles. And that Pirate looks a little weathered. He got beat up a little bit last week, so he's got the gray hair. Pewter Pregame Show, Bucs and Eagles, September 29th, this Sunday at 9 a.m. Make sure that you set your calendars for that. so you don't miss it. It's a great live show. We go for about 40, 45 minutes. And if you miss it, here's the great thing. You can always catch it, the archive version on Pewter Report TV. But we stream it live on Facebook, X, pewterreport.com, and Pewter Report TV. Same thing with Pewter Game Day. And that's going to be at 1 o'clock. Join the show at 12:55 when Matt and Josh kind of take the air and get everything set just in time for kickoff. Bucs Eagles. This is a big one. The Eagles are going to come for the Buccaneers just like Tampa Bay came for Detroit in week 2, wanting some revenge for that playoff loss. So this has got to be a bounce back game for the Buccaneers. And the cool thing is we don't dive too much into the pregame shows on Mondays because we kind of do a little bit of a wrap-up show. We also answer a lot of your questions and concerns. We have a chance to watch the film and discuss everything that we've seen. But we will have a Bucs versus Eagles preview on Wednesday. That's always our Wednesday show. We do the preview. So we'll dive into the Eagles, which just came off a somewhat impressive win over New Orleans down there in the Big Easy and help the Buccaneers by knocking the Saints off. And hopefully Tampa Bay can make it 2-0 against the Eagles, man.
That would be ideal, especially how they beat them in the postseason. Another way to get some tiebreakers over the Eagles as well. It's a big stretch coming up for Tampa Bay, and just to make a last comment about the game day show and the pregame show. We make it fun. I mean, that game was as bad as it got against Denver, and we still all had a good time, at least conversing together. So for that 9 o'clock game, maybe you need a little pick-me-up to get up and get ready for it. Yeah. I'd suggest having a Celsius energy drink, the official energy drink of pewterreport.com. Check out all their flavors, including their new ones, like the sparkling watermelon lemonade and the sparkling kiwi strawberry. But like I said, tons of great flavors. So if you need to know where to find a Celsius energy drink, head on over to the Celsius store locator on their website. Punch in your address. It'll tell you the closest location where you could pick one up. Could be a Walmart, Target, a GNC, a Piggly Wiggly, a Wallbounds, or it could be your bodega.
Bodega.
And after you keep going to your bodega, and you know you love Celsius and you want to buy it in bulk, you can purchase it in bulk. I recommend getting that variety pack because variety is the spice of life, and there's great flavors of Celsius all over the place. So you can get that by going to Amazon, clicking on the subscribe and save, and have it sent to your place of residence whenever you want. Just make sure you're drinking Celsius energy drinks, the official energy drink of pewterreport.com. Let's get to a couple more of these.
Well, I was going to say real quick, if I can, we had some fantastic participation in this state, across the country, and around the world. So let's just get these people recognized here because, hey, the Buccaneers might have let you down, right, yesterday, but you Pewter people do not let us down ever. And you come to bring it on Monday, and we appreciate it. So we have Greg DeCruz, who I finally got a chance to meet before the season opener,
nice. Yeah.
out there in front of the stadium. That was really cool, Greg. So as always, from Costa Rica, checking in. Ryan Giles from Rock Springs, Wyoming. I was out in Wyoming last October during the bye week, and out there for Yellowstone up there in Montana as well. Great, beautiful big sky country up there. Creo Southpaw from Falmouth. Is it Falmouth, Jamaica?
Falmouth.
Yeah. Falmouth. Okay, there we go.
Still very cool. Jamaica, shout out.
J5 Studios from Prospect, Ohio, and we had a couple of Midwesterners out there. Shaggy in the middle of Illinois. We love it. We had another one here in, let's see here. There we go. Jolly Jigs from Columbus, Ohio. And we've got a couple more folks from out of the country. Rafa 589 from Madrid, Spain. Matt, you were just out in Spain, weren't you? Over the summer? Didn't you?
I was in Italy.
Italy.
Italy,
okay. All right.
In May.
That's right. Just like Corey in Sorrento, Italy, by way of New Jersey Park.
Very
in
cool.
New Jersey, yes. And he's not the only one in New Jersey. Wall, New Jersey is where you can find Steven Stansfeld. So greatly appreciate. We had a couple of great Floridians as well. Let me throw a couple of those up here. We got Brian Hashi from Reddick, Florida. Space Windu from Tampa. Christopher Cole from Bartow, Florida. Yeez from up in my neck of the woods, Wesley Chapel. And Wasp, who just rejoined. We appreciate the Pewter Report TV channel membership. And you're in Miami. I'll be going down to Boca Raton to visit Boca Raton to visit my daughter Jillian, who's a freshman at FAU this week Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. They got a game against, who is it? Wagner, FAU versus Wagner on Saturday. So I'll be down there, hopefully dodging some hurricanes. We do have some inclement weather coming this week. A hurricane is supposed to come, hit either the Panhandle or the west coast of Florida. We'll see where it ends up. That might affect Wednesday's show. These things are unpredictable, so keep in mind, if we do not do a show Wednesday, it's because something disastrous has happened with the weather.
Right.
Otherwise, we're planning on having shows Wednesday and Thursday as scheduled. And the good news is, looks like this weather system will be out of the state of Florida by Sunday's game against the Eagles.
Yes, hopefully. Also, shout out Sorrento. That was one of the places I visited in Italy, and it was a wonderful spot. So shout out to all of our fans across the globe. Yeah. Let's keep the super chats rolling. Thank you, everybody. We have some awesome super chats to get to. Thanks to KGH for Life for this $5 super chat, who says, under Bowles' leadership, the Bucs have had too many games like that. They come out flat and can't regroup or adapt. It's just inexcusable. Yeah, I think you bring up a good point because, in the Bruce Arians era, I think we all remember when they lost the Thursday night game against Chicago. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But, Todd Bowles' first year, they had the brutal loss to the Steelers and they had the brutal loss to the Panthers after they had just traded Christian McCaffrey and they had no business being in that game. So, that happened last year. Then they lost 6-7 last season. So Bowles does have some tough losses on his resume in his Bucs tenure. And I think part of the issue, part of the problem is I don't think Todd has to be a rah-rah guy, but the Bucs, as we talked about on yesterday's post-game show, they don't necessarily have that rah-rah guy. So who's really going to change the tempo? And Bowles is going to be who he is. And I want to ask him today, but Bowles was very quick responses with everything during today's press conference. If maybe some of you guys saw it.
4-minute press conference today.
Right. But what I wanted to ask Bowles was, when the team doesn't get up for games, who does that fall on? Is it the coaches? Is it the leaders of this team? Mm-hmm. And I knew his response was going to be, it's everybody. It's everybody. That's what he was going to say and not really provide much detail. But sometimes when it's a big rivalry game, you automatically get up for it. A postseason game, you automatically get up for it. But sometimes you need, that Celsius boost in the middle of a game, and the Bucs just never found it.
Yeah, it's important to have that fire starter, right? And you can be kind of a more of a docile. What's the right word I'm looking for? Kind of laid back coach, like Tony Dungy was that way. But on his staff, he had Herm Edwards, who was, he was a fire starter.
Exactly. You played to win the game.
Exactly. And he was replaced by Mike Tomlin. We know Mike T. He's got full of energy, right? Yeah. And Rod Marinelli was very kind of soft spoken like this. It's just how he was, he's just like this, very soft spoken guy. On the field, it was nothing but obscenities. It's like he was Jekyll and Hyde. He was a monster in terms of that. And I just don't see the fire starter on this team. And I've been around teams. Even my Pop Warner teams, that you have to have those guys that when things aren't going right and everyone's looking around like, are you making the play? Who's going to make the play? Right. Somebody just says, me, I'm making the play, and they go out and they make the play. And this team has had that. And you look back to the Super Bowl years, it was Jason Pierre-Paul was the fire starter, right? Yep. He and Ryan Jensen on opposite sides of the ball. You need one on offense and one on defense. And those are the tempo setters. Those are the fire starters. Those are the guys who are not afraid to get in people's faces on the sidelines and say, pick your up, right? And get it going. And they don't have that. They get a bunch of nice guys. They get along. Team chemistry is great. That's fine. Okay. Until you get punched in the mouth. What's the famous Mike Tyson quote? Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face. And then what? And that was the look. And you could see it. It's all over the film. It wasn't like they weren't trying hard. It just that I said in the group chat, Jordan Whitehead is maybe the closest to being that guy out there. He had a crappy game. And so when you're having a crappy game, you're more interested in getting yourself going than the team going, right? He had back-to-back plays on the fourth down where he bit on the play action run and Bo Nix skirted outside of him, went right by him. Then on the next play, he comes down and fills, tries to fill his gap, and he stops his feet. He could have absolutely smacked Javonte Williams at the line of scrimmage, a punishing hit. Sometimes that's what you need. And instead, he stopped his feet and got trucked by Javonte Williams. Thankfully, On the same play, Lavonte David punches the ball out. But Lavonte is not a rah-rah guy. This team, if I have to fault Jason Light for something, he's not found the Ndamukong Suhs, the next Ryan Jensen, the Jason Pierre-Pauls. I think Yaya might have a little bit of that inside him. I think Zion might, but they're almost too young, like too kind of timid to take on that role right now. KJ Britt's a talker. He wants to be that guy.
Yeah.
He's not the best linebacker on this team. That's Lavonte, and then Servassier Dennis, and then him. It's hard to be the rah-rah guy when you're platooning with somebody who's better than you. And Servassier through 3 games is better than KJ Britt.
That's exactly what I was going to say is KJ Britt is that vocal guy. I mean, we have a video on our Instagram from training camp. It's during warm-ups, but KJ's like, "Hey, Baker Mayfield," like, and he's chirping at Baker. But you made a great point yesterday, and I'll reiterate it today. And you kind of already mentioned it with Jordan Whitehead. But what was the big play with KJ Britt yesterday? It was when he missed the tackle on that 4th and goal on the pitch play. Yep. So KJ Britt, who is a vocal guy, and he's playing half the time, so he's not even on the field for all of it. It's tough. Yeah, that picture right there. It's tough when KJ Britt misses on a play like that and then goes to the huddle and it's like, "Come on, guys, we got to be better." It's like,
exactly.
You got to be better.
Yes,
everyone has to be better, but you got to be better as well. So it is a little tough of a fine line. Like, yes, you need someone, because Baker, another guy who's obviously vocal, he's the quarterback. Baker had a terrible game, so it's tough for Baker to.
It is.
You have to hold yourself accountable, and they all are. I'm not saying anybody's pointing the fingers, but it's tough to hold others accountable when you are, playing poorly at the same time. So I think that's a little bit more of a specific example, but that's the situation that the Bucs were in yesterday, and that's why it kind of unraveled against the Broncos.
Yeah. And you know what, Luke Gedeke is kind of he's becoming that tone setter up front, and he's
right.
He's out, right? He's not playing, so he's not on the field doing that. We talked about Jordan Whitehead on this touchdown run by Jaleel McLaughlin here.
Yeah.
Jordan Whitehead is getting driven 5 yards back into the end zone by a tight end.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you want to be that guy, right, you got to shed that block and stick this guy at the 1 yard line and not prevent him from getting the touchdown. Those are the plays that you have to make that nobody did,
Look at for those that watched the Sunday night game last night, and the Falcons were playing, so I imagine a lot of Bucs fans were interested in it. What the big play at the end, 4th and inches. They tried to run it with Bijan Robinson. The Chiefs, who are 2-time back-to-back Super Bowl champions and have won 3 over the past couple of years, they made the big play at the end. Bolton make the big tackle at the end. But you just mentioned tight end ago. You mentioned tight end a second ago, and on the topic of tight end, thank you to Bucs Basement for this $2 super chat, who says, "We really need an upgrade at tight end. Otten is just a guy." Yeah. You know what's interesting? Because I was looking at the snap count again, my article, the snap count analysis, which comes out every week. It was published earlier today. So last year, the big thing with Cade Otton was he's the Iron Man. He plays 100% of the snaps, which only the O-line and Baker does. So, wow, he's doing all the stuff. And this year, we were all saying like, "Oh, okay, he's going to play less, but it's better in the long run." The last 2 weeks, he still played 90% of the snaps. So maybe he's not the full-time Iron Man, but he's very much playing almost every single snap on offense. And he's okay as a blocker. I don't think he really provides much in the passing game. Yes, he's had some nice moments, and he does have that clutch ability. But I'm just curious. A lot of people were high on Payne Durham. His snaps decreased this week. He played like over 30% last week. He was down to 20, I think 33 last week. He was down to 21% this week. But how much worse of an option could Payne Durham be in terms of just being a possibility in the passing game? Because I don't care that Cade Otton had 7 receptions. His 7 receptions went nowhere, and then he fumbled at the end of the game. So he's like, no one's going to mistake him for Travis Kelce and George Kittle and Laporta. I know he just got hurt, and Hockenson, but like it's like he's running with cinder blocks on his feet, and he can't move. So it's either he's wide open or that's about it. So he's not making a difference.
I'm with you 100% on that, Matt. Zap Brannigan won with a $5 super chat. Don't make a scene. It's just Dean getting beat again and again and again. Send him to Detroit with CD3. Jamel Dean is cornerback 2 on this team. Zion McCollum is on his way to becoming an elite cornerback. He had a fantastic game outside of that one 31-yard reception he allowed where he just didn't get a good jam. He was a little bit late. He was looking at the snap and just was a step behind Josh Reynolds. They got to play tighter coverage. This being off the ball, 12 yards, soft zone. It played right into the Broncos' game plan.
Exactly.
You're not going.
They got scared. They got scared after the first drive when they got beat 1-on-1. Yep. And Jamel Dean is to blame. I think the scheme is to blame just as much. Because this happens to Dean sometimes. Like, he'll have great games, white on rice with coverage like he was last week. But you can't let just one play on that first drive. I guess it was 2 throws, one where Dean was covering, one where Zion was covering, and say, well, we can't try that anymore. If anything, you got to keep forcing Bo Nix to make those great throws because, you hit it one time, but it's kind of like, all right, do it again. And if you keep doing it and, you keep making the big play, because let's remember, that second touchdown when it was 14-0, the Broncos started on the 10-yard line. It wasn't like they drove all the way down the field. Now, they continued to as the game went on, but momentum was already gone at that point because you had went down 14-0. And the offense is to blame for that side of it for sure. But man coverage is the way to go with this defense, which you blitz a lot all the time anyway. So why not make sure you're on your guy versus the zone?
2 fast corners, and both Dean and McCollum were faster than Josh Reynolds and Cortland Sutton. So what are you afraid of? Get up there and play some man coverage. If you want to give somebody like a soft zone, give it to a speedster like Tyreek Hill or Jameson Williams or somebody that really has a legit chance of blowing by you, right? That's the thing. So I don't understand it. Meets McGee, $5 super chat here.
Yeah, thank you. Meets McGee says, this has been going on since Bowles took over, losing games they shouldn't just because the team wasn't up mentally, then beat the Eagles next week. Well, the good news is if that trend continues, then they will be victorious on Sunday. And we have seen the season when they lost with Tom Brady in his last year. Dallas was a really good team despite how Dallas struggles in the playoffs. But the Bucs got up for the postseason last year. There's no doubt about it. Obviously, they trounced the Eagles and they kept it damn near close with the Detroit Lions. So the games where you don't need to fabricate like adrenaline and intensity and things of that nature, the Bucs are ready to go. But this has gone on a little bit too much in the Todd Bowles regime of just kind of sleepwalking through a game. And maybe this one because they lost so badly, like the Steelers and the Panthers game from 2022 that I mentioned a little bit ago. Those games were still close in the end, like they still had a chance to win. This one they had no shot to win, and you could argue, a couple bounces and they beat the Steelers and Panthers. Not this case with Denver. Sure, if you get to stop early in the game and you don't go down 14-0, maybe. But that can't happen again.
I agree. Bucs Basement with a $2 super chat. This year in free agency, they need to get a stud pass rusher. They do, or they have to have some of these guys develop. And I've been critical at times of George Edwards, the outside linebackers coach. I mean, we have not seen Yaya Diaby get to the quarterback yet. JTS has gotten there once. Anthony Nelson would have had a strip sack yesterday. Would have been nice if not for Greg Gaines jumping off sides. That was a critical error. Chris Braswell, 2 quarterback hits. I'm just not that impressed. I've seen what great coaching looks like. I've seen it. I've seen some of the best assistant coaches in Tampa Bay. Joe Barry, say what you want about him as a coordinator, phenomenal linebackers coach. Mike Tomlin, great head coach, phenomenal defensive backs coach. Raheem Morris, Jimmy Lake, phenomenal defensive backs coaches. Rod Marinelli, Joe Cullen, fantastic defensive line coaches. You saw that Kansas City defensive line last night in winning a Super Bowl the last 2 years. You know who the defensive line coach is? Joe Cullen. Okay. I know what that looks like. I'm not that impressed with George Edwards. I'm sorry. I don't see the results on the field. I don't see the improvement. I don't see the development of these young players. And I know Todd Bowles likes him. He's on the staff for the second year now. I don't see it. I just don't see it. And maybe they do need a stud pass rusher who already knows how to do it in free agency as opposed to developing guys, because I don't see the development of these young players. And it's becoming a little concerning right now because they have some talent. The talent is there, but it's up to the coaches to bring out the talent and take these players to the next level. And that's not happening. And it's time that George Edwards feels a little heat, in my opinion. And I'm not afraid to bring it.
And in fairness, the top pass rushers that the Bucs had going back to their Super Bowl days, JPP was traded for. He was already established. And Shaq Barrett certainly was a diamond in the rough, but he did not begin his career.
But Larry Foote was the outside linebackers coach then. He's the inside linebackers coach now, and I get it because Larry Foote played the position. I don't know, man. You need some fire starters. You in the trenches, it's trench warfare. You need people with personalities. You need some ass kickers. Rod Marinelli was that way. Joe Cullen is that way. You need guys that like lose their voice because they scream so much in practice to ratchet the intensity up. You need to hunt. This is a hunting business. You need to have a primal hunting mentality. I could tell you the videos. I could tell you about the videos that Rod Marinelli played for the likes of Warren Sapp and Reagan Upshaw and Brad Culpepper and Chidi Yohanatu back in the day. If you knew about those videos, it was some hunting videos, lions hunting down gazelles on the Serengeti, stuff that would make PETA want to like picket one Buccaneer place. Okay. It was primal nature, animal kingdom stuff. And you know what? It got those dudes fired up to play. And that's the type of mentality that you have to have. And I just don't see it. And I don't see that hunting pack mentality out there. I just don't. And you need to have it.
Well said, Scott. The last thing I'll say about it too, as far as edge rusher goes, I don't know how many more weeks we have to wait until like at least just giving an opportunity situationally, not starting every single down. Jose.
Yes,
like
Marquise
him,
Watts.
or even Marquise Watts. Like Marquise Watts didn't play at all yesterday. He had 4 snaps against Detroit. So, I mean, we saw what he did against Tennessee. That doesn't even put off a little bit of a light of like, hey, maybe we give him a couple of third down opportunities. But anyway, we got to keep the super chats rolling because you guys have been great with these. We still have a lot to get to. Thanks to MMDVG for this $5 super chat who says, we need a good third down back. Too many drives ended because of lack of aggressive runs outside of some Bucky Irving magic. Well, I think Rachaad White could be a pretty good third down back in that situation. But unless you're talking about third and short, well, then you can just keep Bucky Irving on the field for that one. I was actually encouraged. I don't remember the score at the time, but the Bucs had a nice like 3rd and 2 where they ran it with Bucky Irving and he got 8 yards down the field. And it was good to see they did convert on a short yardage play. But the runs have been too few and far between as far as effective runs. Bucky Irving needs to be started. Todd Bowles did say that he's earned more reps. So hopefully that means a 50-50 balance between the two. I'm fine if it skews in the other direction. But we'll believe when we see it because another faux pas of Todd Bowles has been taking too long to make those changes and adjustments with personnel specifically.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm with you. Let's just spend a minute or two real quick on how this offense can get fixed. Getting Mike the ball more. That just has to happen. This is the best offensive weapon in Tampa Bay history. And I wrote a whole column and just dumped it in the chat here, my 2-point conversion column about Bucky Irving getting the ball more. And he needs to be the starting running back. If you're having problems in the first quarter getting going, if you're coming out flat, I don't know. Give the ball to the guy that when he runs, the crowd at Ray J goes, Bucky, Bucky, Bucky. Give him the ball to start the game. Make him the first running back. Get him going. Get the crowd electric. Okay? That 32-yard run juiced that place. That place was dead. I mean, outside of Broncos
Bucky was
fans,
screaming, too.
Exactly. Get him the ball early. Make him the guy. I don't care how big he is. Warwick Dunn, I watched him get 20 carries a game. Kyron Williams is a Pro Bowler. He's a little bit smaller than Bucky Irving is for the Rams. Okay, so don't give me the size crap. Well, he's small. We get it. No, he's tough. He's from Southside Chicago, man. For God's sake.
Yeah.
Don't tell Bucky Irving he's too small and he's not tough enough and he won't last. Run him into the ground. Okay, seriously, he can take it. He's the juice. Give him the ball. Give Mike the ball. Find ways to manufacture touches. Mike's first catch was a slant. I don't know. And the first play of the game, run a slant to Mike. Okay. Get him involved in the game. Don't let it be, 1 target in 1 quarter and then 2 targets by halftime for Mike, because any receiver, I don't care how good you are, how legendary you are, if you're a future Hall of Famer, you're not going to be running those routes with juice. You're going to be waiting your turn. Come on. You're going to be frustrated. That's anybody. That's Tyreek Hill. That's Mike. That's Jerry Rice. That's whatever. Okay. Get Mike the ball and feed Bucky early. Those are my 2 things in terms of getting this offense going. Start there.
It is inexcusable that Mike Evans had so little targets that he had.
Yeah.
At a minimum per game, Mike Evans at a minimum should be getting 8 targets per game. I don't care who the other corner is. Patrick Surtain, he's the highest paid corner defensive back in the league. Great. Mike Evans is a future Hall of Famer.
Yes.
He can match up against anybody. Oh, they're going to double team Mike Evans. He's been getting double teamed his entire career, and he's still getting 1,000 yards. There's no defense that any team can put in front of Mike Evans and Baker Mayfield where the Bucs say, well, Mike's just not going to have it today, and he's not going to be around. And the whole, the defense is going to dictate what goes on. Yeah, that's the case where if the defense is covering Mike so much that someone is wide ass open on the other side of the field. Not, Mike's doubled and Chris is covered and Jalen McMillan can't get open either. No, it's got to be one of those drastic situations. So, a lot needs to change for sure. I agree with Desmond Beatty. He's got to have at least 8 to 10 targets per game. There's no question about it. He's a future Hall of Famer for a reason. Mike has those monster games, and he's due for one because he typically has it early in the season. So we will see. Cali Buck says Evans is open. Even if he is covered, he's 6'5". Throw it up.
It's going to be interesting to see. The Eagles don't blitz a lot. This is like the Eagles team of old. It'll be interesting to see because they'll drop 7, right? And that's more zone, and that's going to require sitting down in zones. Baker Mayfield reading the coverage, avoiding interceptions, etc. We'll see what happens on Sunday.
Thanks to Pewter Report YouTube channel member Furu Kawab for this $5 super chat. I'm concerned that Denver had a backup right tackle playing, and Yaya is still at 0 sacks. Yeah, it's concerning. It's confusing. Yaya has been good with pressures, and constant pressure is very, very important. But you still have to get sacks at the end of the day, especially if the pressure isn't causing the mistakes that Jared Goff had, against the Bucs, because it was no issue for Bo Nix. So, Yaya's got to pick it up, or the Bucs are going to be forced to make some choices this offseason. Not saying they're going to cut Yaya. Right. He's only in the 2nd year. But they're going to look at not penciling in Yaya as a direct starter if that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, JTS didn't take advantage of him either. Anthony Nelson didn't. Chris Braswell didn't. I mean, the backup right tackle played well. I mean, it was envious, right? Because we've seen how Justin School has played, and this guy in his first game shut out everybody he faced. So hats off to him.
He's 813, who also gifted us a Pewter Report membership earlier. Thanks again for that, and thank you for this $5 super chat. Says Lions got demolished against the Ravens last season and made the NFC Championship game. Although Broncos aren't the Ravens, point is bad games happen. On to Philly. I agree with that tenfold. Awful game. Watch the tape, learn from it, and then erase it from your mind after that. And again, if the Bucs go on a 3-game winning streak with some crucial wins, the sting is taken out of losing a winnable game like they should have won.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly.
Q's44, thanks for the $2 super chat. Matt, is USF the only D1 team in the city of Tampa? Well, since my Tampa Spartans are now defunct in the football program, yes, USF is the only team in Tampa that is a D1 football program.
Yep.
But go Spartans anyway. Gino Sisson. Thanks for the $11.11 super chat. Make a wish, everybody. Why does the Bucs always have problems with mobile quarterbacks? Are the defense not disciplined enough or over pursuing too much?
Yeah, it's pass lanes. It's maintaining. We saw a play where Yaya Diaby went inside the tight end and gave up the edge. It's just doing little things like that, setting the edge, maintaining your pass rush lanes on that scramble where really Anthony Nelson almost had a sack of Bo Nix, and then he scrambled 22 yards. He kind of went back through the pocket and then around the other side. There was no lane integrity. Everyone was kind of freelancing and just trying to get to the quarterback rather than contain and bottle up the quarterback. A lot of times, if you play that right, and I coached Pop Warner defensive line. It's the same thing at any level. You can teach this to 8-year-old kids. You can teach them to 18-year-old high school kids, college pro. If you maintain your pass rush lanes and you provide pressure, and we've seen it, go back to the Super Bowl year, man, JPP and Shaq, one guy was chasing sacks to the other guy. Vita Vea was pushing the quarterback to the left or the right into those. That's the beauty. Sometimes those sacks are cleanup sacks, right? It's the initial pressure will force the quarterback into the guy that gets the sack. That's not happening right now. The guy that gets the sack is the guy who's having to beat the one-on-one and chase down the quarterback himself. We're not getting those collective sacks, and that's one thing that's got to change. And that's how you hunt as a pack, as a team up front. You've got to maintain those pass rush lanes. Everybody works together to collapse the pocket. Remember back to that Servassier Dennis sack. It was a thing of beauty. Yep. Levante up the middle, JTS off the edge, Servassier Dennis. It was a quarterback party in the backfield, and Servassier beat him to the punch.
Sadly, it feels like a while ago, even though it's only 3 weeks. Thanks to Ryan Giles for this $1.99 super chat. Time to panic on Yaya. I was banking a sack by now. I think the Thursday night game, if we don't see much from Yaya after the Thursday night game, then it's time to panic because you're going up against Atlanta. Kirk Cousins is a statue back there, and I think we've seen early on, if you get even a little pressure against Atlanta, who hasn't really been able to run the ball yet, despite having Bijan Robinson. Kirk Cousins cannot run. He cannot move. And the Falcons suffered some injuries to their offensive line. That's another. I mean, Yaya didn't take advantage of Denver, but 2 more weeks. If not much is getting done by then it's serious panic time.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And again, I think coaching's part of this too, right? I mean, these are young guys that they still need to be developed. These are not finished products by any means. So yeah, I'm with you about that. I will say this: when you have financial investments and you've got some money, maybe you need to save some money for your college fund for your kids. There's one place to turn for that. It's our place that we like to call Amuni Financial. They're our friends. They're the best in the financial business. Please give them your business.
At Amuni Financial, we help you live in the now.
Congratulations. We're so happy for you.
Thank you. And even though the now may feel very different, you still need to plan for the future.
How's retirement treating you?
Oh, just fantastic.
I know I say it all the time, but you really got to come up to Colorado.
Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
We can help you develop that plan to keep you on track so you can still prepare for tomorrow, today. Amuni Financial. Plan ahead, stay ahead.
Got our Bucs Monday mailbag presented by Amuni Financial. So it's only appropriate that I tell you about Amuni Financial. Managing your family's wealth means more to Amuni Financial than simply allocating your assets. It's where I've got most of my financial investments with Amuni. It means legacy planning, brokerage and advisory services, retirement accounts, college savings accounts, and insurance services. With 40 years of experience, let Amuni Financial help you plan ahead and stay ahead. Call Amuni Financial at 1-800-868-6864 or visit them on the web at Amuni.com. They can help you whether you're living in Florida or across the continental United States. Amuni.com.
Thanks to everybody for the super chats.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, we're going to give you a little bit of overtime here because you all deserve it. It's Monday. You had to put up with that 3-hour crap fest yesterday. And we've got some more super chats, some more great comments. We have Ashley Marie, because this is Roll Call Monday. And I didn't know this place existed, but it's actually a true place. It's called Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. That's the name of the state. So Ashley Marie, too, thank you very much for watching us in Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. What a cool name for a city. That's cool.
Yeah, and shout out to Breaking Bad. I think that took place in
Did it? Okay, all right.
Yeah. But yeah, you guys have been great with the super chat. So we got a couple more to get to. Thank you very much. And the Bucs didn't perform yesterday, but we're performing today. So thanks to Bucs Basement. Sorry, I got it. Thanks to Bucs Basement for this $2 super chat. It says article about fans warming up to bowls aged like milk.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hey, I took full accountability for that in today's Bucs mailbag. Yeah, it's such a shame because we've seen this, right? We saw it last year in the playoffs. Todd Bowles' defensive masterpiece against the Eagles. And then against the Lions, second shot at the Lions, nothing changes. Jared Goff carves up the Buccaneers once again, sends them home packing for the year. So this was a prime example where you have, okay, fine. Bowles finally figures out Jared Goff. Everyone's feeling great and good. And then you let another rookie quarterback beat you. And it just when you start to believe that this guy can be the head coach to take this team to the Super Bowl, you have these losses that shouldn't happen. If you're a great team, that doesn't happen yesterday. And that's why I said, this is not a great Bucs team. This is a good Bucs team. Good Bucs team, probably win 10 games. That's what we all said. We were unanimous at Pewter Report, 10 wins. This is not a 12-win Buccaneer team. This is not a 13-win Buccaneer team. This is not an elite team. They're a good team. I think they'll level up as the season goes on. Hopefully, maybe they get better next year. But great teams don't let what happened yesterday happen, and that's what happened.
In defense of Todd Bowles, I think a lot of the anger about him, like even before the season, was issues would happen, and they're still happening now, but certain issues would happen, and then they see Todd on the sideline with no emotion like this, and people would be like, what the heck? Like, what is he doing? So I do think the beginning of the year when he screamed, it's exciting and all of that stuff, while no one is going to care when they lose like they did yesterday, I think it does show that he does have emotion.
He does.
There is a reason why he is appealing to the players and things like that.
No doubt.
So I still think he can win back all the fans, and winning solves a lot of things for sure. Thanks to Paul Bowen, who's the calmest when it comes to the Buccaneers. Thanks to this $1.99 super chat who says, no need to panic. Firm at 13-4 still.
That's
yes,
right.
You have been very optimistic with your 13-4 prediction, and hey, they're still on track. They're 2-1, so they got 3 more games where they can fall a little bit. But hey, good for you, Paul Bowen. Like I said, I respect the optimism. Thanks to Logan Valente for this $4.99 super chat.
Brand new channel member. Thank you.
Yeah, also a new channel member says, if this season does snowball, that was the buzzword last year on the Bucs, how much job security does Todd Bowles have?
Well, it depends on what the final number is, right? And does this team make the playoffs at 9-7 again? Or I guess it'd be 9-8. I'm still like with 16 games on the brain. I think this team expects progress. I know the Glazers are expecting improvement. That's why I kind of said, 10-7. That's a step in the right direction, and then you maybe go a little bit further in the playoffs. Maybe you make a run at the NFC Championship game. We'll see. A lot of season left. At 2-2, it's not over, but it does put a lot of pressure on this team in a short week if they do trip up at home against the Eagles. Matt, it feels like that Bucs-Falcons game on Thursday night is really going to be kind of one of those early season must-win games, because you don't want to start off 2-0 and then have 3 straight losses. Now you're below 500. You've lost back-to-back NFC games. You're now 0-1 in the division. That seems kind of yucky to me. So I think that if they don't beat the Eagles, man, you got to find a way to pull that out in Atlanta.
Yeah, and you also got to think the Saints and the Falcons play against each other this Sunday.
Yeah.
So you're either looking at a 1-3 team with the Falcons where you have a chance to kind of bury them, by beating them on Thursday, or it's another good chance to kind of get a leg up in the division, because if you were to beat the Eagles, let's remember tiebreakers, not only is it a tiebreaker against the Eagles, but the Saints just lost to the Eagles. So you'd have a win over them. And then the Saints would be 1-1 in the division where you could be 1-0, of course. So it also depends on like who's available at the end of the season, because you got Baker under contract. You want to revamp an entire team and offense. So there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
Thank you to Greg DeCruz for this $5 Canadian super chat, who says, I'll be at the throwback game. That's against the Falcons, I believe, creeps ago. Is there any way that Pewter Report can organize a meet and greet?
Let's see. That's the Falcons game, right? Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to kind of check the schedules and see. You mean like before the game on Sunday or like Saturday before? I don't know. It sounds like it might be.
If it's a Friday or Saturday, I'm happy to be like, hey, we're going to this establishment.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to Walk-Ons. Let's meet there and have a drink or whatever.
Yeah.
Sunday's obviously a little bit different because we've got to go and cover the game and things of that nature.
Yeah, it would be
but I'm
easier to
certainly
do.
open to it.
Yeah, like on a Saturday probably would be my guess. Yeah, Saturday or Friday night. So yeah, we'll talk about it internally and let you know, Greg. Thank you. Good suggestion. That's awesome. Boy, y'all are great today. Y'all were better than the team that you root for. That's for sure. So hats off to you. Y'all brought it on this Monday. Greatly appreciate you. It's phenomenal. And the one thing I'll say too is when we try to find some sponsors that we feel would be really good fits for you guys. And if you'll allow me the time here, I just want to tell you about Autograph, because it's a great app. It's free to use, free to download. The only thing we ask is that when you do that and you sign up for an account, use the promo code Pewter, and they're going to reward you. When you read Pewter Report news and when you watch the Pewter Report videos and podcasts, you get rewarded. You earn points, and you can cash in those points for merch and for tickets to games. It's co-founded by Tom Brady, who will be in the building this Saturday, or I should say Sunday, calling the Bucs-Eagles game for Fox, which is kind of cool. And Tom Brady, legendary Buccaneer Super Bowl MVP winner for Super Bowl 55 right here in Tampa. Rumored to have played for the Patriots too. Still working to confirm that. But Autograph is a fantastic app. If you're a sports fan, you need Autograph, so make sure you download it. Use promo code Pewter to sign up. And one last little promo, if you will indulge me. I'm not going to play the commercial, but game day specials, Saturdays and Sundays at Walk-Ons. You probably know this by now. It's the place to be. All the TVs, great food, and these game day specials for next weekend. But listen, folks, happy hour is still in effect from 3 p.m. to close today. So if you're going to go watch the Monday night game, and there's 2 of them tonight, do it at Walk-Ons, because you get the happy hour prices on drinks and on food. Oh, and by the way, all day happy hour tomorrow and every Tuesday at Walk-Ons, including $5 Tito's. So it's a fantastic place to watch sports, especially football, college and pro, get some great food and get some great drinks at great prices. If you want to fight inflation, this is the place to do it. Walk-Ons with 3 locations, 2 in Tampa, 1 up here in Wesley Chapel by the Outlet Mall up here near me, and then the Midtown Tampa location closer to Matt. That's by the stadium, and then Lakeland. So Walk-Ons, you can check out their menu at walkons.com. Highly recommend you go on there. They're a great partner of ours. Fantastic happy hour.
Yeah, go tonight. Watch not 1, but 2 Monday night football games.
This has been a happy hour, Matt. This has been a happy hour today from 4 to 5 here at Pewter Report TV.
Yes, it has. Despite how the Bucs played, had a very happy time chatting with all the Pewter people today. So if you're not already doing so, please follow us on all of our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We are at Pewter Report, and our YouTube channel, which you're watching right now, is Pewter Report TV. We have tons and tons of content that come out from it. So please like and subscribe. Leave a comment on this video below if you have more opinions about the Bucs and the game and everything like that. We'll make sure we check it out as well. So that'll do it for us on today's show. For Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you on Wednesday at 4 p.m. for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.